This is Miss Alice, and today I want to say something that most people in this conversation are too afraid to say clearly. A boy who grows up without his father does not simply miss out on one person. He misses out on a specific and irreplaceable dimension of his own development, a dimension that his mother cannot provide, regardless of how capable she is, regardless of how much she loves him, regardless of how hard she tries to fill the space the absence created. I am a woman. I am saying this not to attack single mothers who are doing heroic work under genuinely difficult circumstances, not to assign blame that belongs in complicated places to one convenient location, to tell the truth about what a boy needs that only his father can give him. Because the truth serves those boys more than the comfortable narrative that love is enough and that family structure does not matter and that a dedicated mother can do it all. Love is not enough, not for this. And the boys who grew up without their fathers know it in ways they may not have language for, but that have shaped everything about who they became. Today, I'm going to name what was missing in 7 specific and honest reasons, not to make anyone feel worse about circumstances that were often beyond anyone's control, to give the men who are fathers right now the clearest possible picture of what their presence means and what their absence costs. Reason number 1, nobody taught him how to channel the thing living inside him that his mother was afraid of. He had aggression. Every boy does. The specific and testosterone-driven energy that needed to go somewhere, that wanted to push and compete and test itself against resistance and discover where the edges were. His mother experienced this energy as threatening, not because she was wrong to find it difficult, because she had never navigated it from the inside, had never been the boy with that energy trying to figure out what to do with it, could not reach into her own experience and find the map that would have shown him where the energy belonged. So she tried to quiet it, to correct it, to smooth it into something she could understand and manage, something that looked less frightening from the outside. And the energy did not disappear. It went somewhere else, into the places that unguided male aggression reliably goes when there is no father to show a boy how to channel it into something that builds rather than destroys. A father understands this energy from the inside. He has been the boy with it. He knows it is not a disorder to be treated or a character flaw to be corrected. It is the raw material of the man the boy is becoming. And the job of a father is not to eliminate that energy, but to teach his son what it is for. How to turn it toward protection rather than destruction, toward building rather than breaking, toward the specific and productive expression of masculine drive that produces men who contribute rather than men who cost. That teaching requires someone who has navigated the territory, and in its absence, the boy navigates it alone, with results that the statistics have documented in ways that nobody who looks honestly at the data can continue to dismiss. Reason number 2, nobody showed him what a man actually looks like moving through the world. He watched. That is what boys do. They watch the men around them and assemble their understanding of what being a man means from the evidence available to them. When the primary man in the house is absent, the evidence available is secondhand. The men on screens, the men in the neighborhood, the men his mother brought into the house across the years, the men his teachers described in books, the aggregate and incomplete picture assembled from sources that were not his father and that could not provide what his father would have provided. His father would have provided something different from all of those sources, not instruction, observation across years of ordinary life, of a specific man navigating specific challenges in specific ways that accumulated into a lived understanding of what men do when things are difficult, how they handle the disappointment, how they treat the people they are responsible for, how they move through a world that does not always cooperate with what they need from it. A boy who watches his father navigate those things across years of shared daily life absorbs something that cannot be taught directly, a felt sense of how a man inhabits his own life, of what the posture of a grounded man looks like from the inside of the family that man is building. Without that observation, a boy is building his understanding of manhood from sources that were not designed to teach him what his father would have taught him. And the gaps that those sources leave are gaps that show up across his adult life in ways that he often cannot trace back to their origin. The origin is the years of watching that never happened, the model that was not there for him to observe. Reason number 3. Nobody taught him how to earn respect from other men. Boys exist inside male hierarchies from the first day they encounter other boys. The playground, the classroom, the sports team, the neighborhood. Every male social environment has its own structure, its own language, its own specific and unspoken rules about how respect is earned and maintained and lost. Navigating those structures requires a specific kind of understanding that comes from watching a man navigate them successfully. From having a father who demonstrates, through his own interactions with other men, how to establish himself, how to compete without cruelty, how to hold his position without aggression, how to earn the specific regard of men that does not require the performance of dominance, but comes from a quality of groundedness that other men recognize and respond to. A boy without a father navigates those hierarchies without the map. He figures out versions of the navigation through trial and error, and through watching other boys who are also figuring it out through trial and error. The errors are expensive. Some of them are permanent. The boy who arrives at his teenage years and his early adulthood without the specific and earned social fluency that comes from watching a man navigate male hierarchies successfully is a man who will spend years learning what his father could have taught him in the ordinary course of living alongside him. Some of those years are recoverable. Some of them are not. Reason number 4, nobody gave him the approval that was worth earning. His mother's approval was available. She loved him. That love did not require him to become something. It was present, regardless of what he produced, regardless of what he attempted, regardless of whether he was growing into the man he was supposed to become or drifting away from that man without anyone who could tell the difference. Maternal love is unconditional in ways that are genuinely beautiful. And it is not what teaches a boy about his own capacity. What teaches a boy about his capacity is the approval that requires something to earn it. That is not available simply because he exists, but because he did something, became something, demonstrated something about who he is becoming that a person who understands the territory could recognize and name. A father's recognition of his son's developing manhood does something that nothing else available in a boy's life does. It tells him from a source whose approval means something that he is on the right path. That what he is becoming is real, that the man watching him grow recognizes in him something worth recognizing. That recognition is not a luxury. It is a developmental requirement. The boy who receives it grows into a man who has a settled internal sense of his own worth that does not require continuous external validation. The boy who does not receive it spends significant portions of his adult life looking for it from sources that cannot provide what his father would have provided. Some of those sources are genuinely damaging, and the looking itself costs years and relationships and opportunities that the settled internal sense would have made unnecessary. Reason number 5, nobody showed him what a man looks like in relation to a woman. He watched his mother. He understood women from the inside of that specific relationship. The relationship that began at his birth and that defined the primary template of his understanding of what a woman is and what a man's relationship to a woman looks like. But he did not watch a man relate to a woman across the ordinary texture of a real partnership. Did not see how a man and a woman navigate disagreement while remaining genuinely committed to each other. Did not observe the specific dynamic of two adults in a genuine partnership where both people are present and both people matter, and the relationship requires the ongoing investment of both people to produce what both people need from it. What a boy learns about relating to women from watching his father and mother together is not abstract. It is embodied. It is the lived sense of what genuine partnership looks like in practice, what it costs both people, what it produces for both people, what the man's specific role in the maintenance of that partnership looks and feels like from the inside of the family it creates. Without that observation, a boy assembles his understanding of how to relate to women from the sources available. The culture, media, the peers who are also assembling from incomplete sources. The relationships he enters without the template that would have made the entering more informed. The gaps show up in how he navigates conflict, in how he understands what women need from him and what he needs from them, in whether the dynamic he creates in his own partnerships resembles anything like the healthy partnership he never watched from close enough to absorb what it actually looked like. Reason number 6, nobody pushed him toward the discomfort that would have made him capable. A father lets his son climb the tree knowing he might fall. Not because he is indifferent to the fall, because he understands that the fall is part of what the climb teaches. That the boy who climbs and falls and gets back up with his father watching is a boy who learned something about his own capacity that the boy who was prevented from climbing never learned. Mothers operating from the genuine love and the genuine protective instinct of someone who cannot bear to see her child hurt often prevent the climb. Not because they are wrong to protect him, because the protective instinct and the developmental instinct point in different directions at the specific moments when boys need to be pushed toward difficulty rather than shielded from it. A father understands that boys grow through challenge, that the difficulty is the point, that the boy who is never allowed to fail at something that mattered to him is a boy who never discovers what he is capable of when something matters and is hard and requires more than he initially believed he had. That discovery is available through healthy risk, through the specific and graduated experience of being pushed toward difficulty by someone who believes in what the difficulty will produce, who does not prevent the attempt because the attempt might fail, who watches the attempt and is there for the failure and helps the boy understand what the failure means and what comes next. The boy who never had that is a man who approaches difficulty with an uncertainty about his own capacity that shows up in every area of his adult life that requires him to attempt something that might not work. That uncertainty is not a character flaw. It is the absence of something that should have been provided during the years when providing it would have shaped him differently. Reason number 7, nobody stood between him and the thing that was forming him when it should not have been. A mother and a son in a house without a father exist in a proximity that is genuinely different from the proximity in an intact family. She needs something from the relationship that the relationship was not designed to provide. He needs something from her that she cannot provide because she is already consuming all of what she has, trying to survive the circumstances she is inside. This proximity produces something that is not healthy for either of them, and that both of them deserve to be protected from. The boy becomes the emotional anchor of a woman who has no other adult anchor. He learns to manage her emotional state, to read her mood, and adjust his behavior to protect her from the things that make the mood worse. To be present for her in ways that require him to subordinate his own developmental needs to her emotional requirements. This is too much for a boy. It is genuinely too much, not because his mother is wrong to need something, because the needing of it from him specifically is a weight that a boy's developing psychology is not equipped to carry without cost. A father standing in the shared life creates the necessary space between mother and son that prevents that weight from landing entirely on the boy. He mediates. He is the adult in the room when the adult needs to be someone other than the boy. He prevents the specific and damaging dynamic of a son who grew up too responsible for his mother's well-being and not responsible enough for his own. The man that boy becomes carries that early weight forward in how he relates to women, in whether he can maintain boundaries with the people he loves, in whether the intimacy that his own future relationships require produces the specific anxiety of someone who learned early that being close to someone he loves means being responsible for that someone's emotional survival. That pattern is not inevitable. It is produced by the absence of the person whose presence would have prevented it from forming in the first place. Here is what I want every father watching this to understand. The data on what your absence costs your son is not subtle. It is overwhelming. It is consistent across decades of research, across every measurable dimension of a boy's development and a man's outcomes. The data is not why you should stay. The data is just the confirmation of what you already know when you are being honest with yourself. You know what your son needs from you because you needed it too. Whether you received it or not, whether your own father was present or absent. You know what the presence of a man who was invested in your becoming would have meant to your developing sense of who you were and what you were capable of. Give your son what you needed, not because the data says to, because he is your son. And what he becomes across the years ahead is shaped in ways that nothing and nobody else can shape in the same direction by whether the man who brought him into the world decided that staying was the most important thing available to him. It is the most important thing available to you. Stay. Fight for access when the fighting is required. Be present even when being present is expensive. Your son is watching. What he sees you do right now is becoming the man he will be. I want to hear from the men watching this. Did you grow up with your father or without him? And whatever the answer is, what did his presence or his absence shape in you that you can only see clearly now looking back? Tell me in the comments, because the fathers reading those comments who are weighing the cost of staying need to hear from the men who already know what the cost of leaving produced. This is Miss Alice, and I will be back with more of what nobody else will say. Subscribe if you're ready to keep hearing it.